From the opening frames, the documentary plunges us deep into the sprawling green labyrinth of the Amazon rainforest, a vast ecosystem of towering trees, shadowy undergrowth, winding rivers, and shimmering canopy light. Here, life is abundant and dynamic. Colorful birds flit through the boughs, amphibians and insects teem in the humid understory, and mighty predators roam the forest floor or prowl the river banks. Yet alongside that beauty lies an unrelenting struggle for survival. The film emphasizes the dual nature of this wilderness, breathtaking and benign one moment, merciless and unforgiving the next. Through close-up footage, slow-motion sequences and aerial perspectives, viewers are drawn into the intimate lives of a few of the Amazon's key animals, predators and prey alike, witnessing not just their existence, but their survival strategies. One dominant thread is the world of the big predator, the sleek, muscular jaguar. The documentary shows how jaguars use stealth and leverage the river edge habitat to their advantage, crouching among foliage or near the water's edge to ambush unsuspecting mammals or caimans. The pairing of riverine and jungle environments gives them flexibility. At the same time, the jaguar's prey must remain vigilant and perfectly tuned to signals of danger: a snapped twig, a shifting shadow, the glint of movement in half-light. The film's narrative underscores that survival for the jaguar is not simply a matter of brute strength, but timing, silence, patient wait, and seizing the moment with precision. In one memorable scene, the jaguar silently stalks through flooded forest during the Amazon's high water season, taking advantage of rising water levels to access prey that might otherwise escape its reach. On the flip side, the documentary also highlights the strategies of prey animals, smaller mammals, rodents, and birds that must avoid detection or rapid death. Camouflage, speed, sudden flight, and living in groups all appear as tactics against predation. In one vivid sequence, a small monkey troop flees from a predator's call, scattering through vines and branches in an intricately choreographed blur of limbs and leaves, demonstrating how avoidance and escape are everyday necessities. The film showcases how even seemingly innocuous species participate in the great game of survival: fluttering insects that mimic leaves to avoid birds, frogs that freeze when threatened, and rodents that maintain complex tunnel systems to hide from above-ground hunters. The Amazon environment gives both predators and prey opportunities, but also imposes unremitting pressures. Food is abundant, but the margin between survival and starvation is thin. Hiding places exist, but predators adapt. Water plays a huge role in the film's depiction of the ecosystem and survival tactics. The Amazon's vast river system, seasonal flooding, and shifting landscapes mean animals must not only hunt or hide but also navigate changing terrain, rising waters, and isolated islands of forest. The documentary captures scenes of caimans and giant aquatic reptiles lurking beneath the surface, while mammals like capybaras move cautiously along riverbanks, aware that the water's edge is where danger often accumulates. During the flood season, trees become islands, and some mammals are forced to swim or relocate, a dramatic change in behavior compared to the dry season when terrestrial pathways dominate. This cyclical transformation means that survival in the Amazon is complex. Animals must know when, where, and how to exploit the landscape. The film emphasizes that adaptability to seasonal change is itself a survival strategy. Some animals enter the flooded forest canopy, others descend when water recedes. Some predators synchronize their hunts with water patterns, knowing prey will concentrate on drier patches or exposed roots. Another major theme is the extraordinary biodiversity of the rainforest, and how that diversity translates into competition and niche specialization. There are the giant snakes, anacondas coiling in dark waters, constricting prey, the venomous snakes hiding in leaf litter, arboreal predators such as ocelots slinking in branches. Each species occupies a niche. The documentary doesn't shy from showing the brutal outcomes: struggles for territory, dominant animals displacing others, scavengers seizing leftovers. The cruelty of nature is on full display, but the film balances that with reflections on ecological importance: how every predator and prey contributes to the balance of the system, how removal of one species could ripple through the ecosystem. Implicitly, the viewer is encouraged to respect the rainforest not just as a place of spectacle, but as a living, interconnected whole. The documentary also explores how the rainforest's physical challenges combine with biological ones. From heavy rainfall, high humidity and flooding, to dense vegetation that restricts movement, animals in the Amazon face constant adversity. The film shows scenes of animals battered by storms, striving to hold territory or raise young in conditions of heavy rainfall, the canopy dripping and water flooding the forest floor. It emphasizes that survival here is not a given. Each creature must constantly overcome physical hardship as well as biological threats. Young animals feature heavily in the narrative, vulnerable newborns of mammals, hatchlings of reptiles, tiny birds in exposed nests. The film uses their stories to highlight how mortality rates are high, how early life is perilous, and how evolutionary adaptations, like nesting high above the ground, or synchronized mass breeding to dilute threat from predators, are essential. The emotional pull of these segments is strong. A mother animal guarding young, scouring for food, or defending them from snakes or rival predators. Another powerful aspect is the human footprint and looming threat of habitat disturbance. While the film primarily celebrates the wild wilderness, it does not ignore that the Amazon is under pressure, from deforestation, climate change, river pollution, and human encroachment. Subtle imagery shows logging encroaching, isolated clearings, river boats cutting through remote water channels, and species whose habitats are becoming fragmented. The documentary uses these visuals to underline that survival in this wilderness is becoming harder for many species. Corridors shrink, seasonal migration or displacement becomes more hazardous, and competition increases even further. Though perhaps less emphasized than the core predator-prey drama, this human dimension gives the documentary a contemporary urgency. The Amazon may be wild, but it is changing. One of the film's strengths is its cinematography. The use of aerial shots over the emerald canopy at dawn, underwater cameras in flooded forests, infrared night vision shots tracking nocturnal creatures, and high-speed footage capturing the flick of tongue or sudden leap. These visual techniques immerse the viewer in the Amazon not just as a backdrop, but as a character in itself. The rainforest appears alive, breathing, shifting, dynamic. Missions of the camera reveal hidden worlds. The underside of floating logs, the tunnels of tree root systems, the vantage point of a canopy-dwelling primate. The narrative voice guides us, pointing out not just what happens, but why, explaining that the changing water levels alter hunting grounds, that fruiting trees trigger animal migrations, that by dusk and dawn the forest's predator-prey relationships shift markedly. In terms of pacing, the documentary intersperses moments of intense action, a chase, a predation event, a sudden river crossing, with quieter segments of preparation, waiting, and survival planning. This alternation mirrors the lives of the animals themselves. Periods of calm punctuated by bursts of danger. The storyteller emphasizes that survival is more often about waiting, hiding, listening, than about constant action. For many species, success in reproduction or feeding comes after patience, caution and subtle adaptation rather than heroic chase sequences. The result is a film that feels balanced, thrilling yet contemplative. An important takeaway from the film is that survival in the Amazon is not just about strength or ferocity, it's about flexibility, adaptation and timing. A powerful predator may dominate, but if it fails to adjust to flooding, rising waters or lack of prey it can starve. A small prey species may avoid the spotlight, but if it fails to hide or adapt its nesting behavior to seasonal changes it will perish. The documentary emphasizes that each species must continually adjust to its environment, and that the environment itself is mutable, not static. This notion of dynamism contrasts with the idea of a frozen, idyllic wilderness, showing instead that the Amazon is in flux, and that animal survival is contingent on that flux. There is also a sense of interconnectedness. When one species' numbers decline, the ripple effects show up elsewhere. When prey animals overpopulate, vegetation changes, which in turn affects other species. When predators fail to thrive, scavengers and decomposers shift their behaviors. The documentary uses several case studies to illustrate this. One sequence shows how a fruiting tree triggers a wave of frugivores, animals that eat fruit, which in turn attracts predators, which in turn influences scavenger activity. This cascading web of relationships places the viewer in the heart of the ecological web, making clear that survival is not a solo endeavor but part of a complex social and environmental matrix. In its final act, the documentary returns to the theme of hope and fragility. It shows how resilient species persist, how life in the Amazon continues despite the hardships, births, migrations, alliances, escapes. Yet it also reminds us of the fragility of this system, that if pressures become too great, such as habitat destruction, climate change altering rainfall patterns, human encroachment, then survival becomes dramatically more difficult. The film leaves the audience with a profound respect for the wilderness, and an awareness of our role in its preservation. To sum up, the documentary offers more than just spectacular wildlife footage. It provides a rich, layered portrait of survival in one of the Earth's last great wild places. It portrays predators and prey locked in constant interplay, adaptation against adversity, water and forest shaping each animal's fate, biodiversity generating both opportunity and challenge, and human pressure as a growing specter. While the imagery enthralls, the underlying message is clear. survival in the Amazon is not guaranteed, it must be earned daily. In showing the relentless vigilance, the cunning camouflage, the sudden ambushes, the deadly river crossings, and the fragile young animals vulnerable to any misstep, Animals of Amazon, Survival in the Harsh Wilderness, gives viewers an immersive lesson in what it means to exist and persist in a harsh, yet astonishingly beautiful wilderness.